improve your memory. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me on this live class on how to naturally improve your memory. Well, my name is Khabir Southwick, Ayurvedic doctor, Ayurvedic herbal pharmacist in clinical practice for almost 27 years, and I'm doing Zoom appointments worldwide and mailing my products worldwide to my patients. And this webinar is sponsored by our sponsor, herbmanteas.com, where any and all the products that I mentioned today are available. So, how to improve your memory. Now, of course, let's talk about what is necessary to do it. We're going to cover the causes. There's many causes, which people who self-treat tend to ignore the cause. I mean, of course, in Ayurveda, they teach you the first treatment for anybody is to remove the causes, which means you have to be able to diagnose the causes, and you have to know, what these causes are that are the possibility. Now, unfortunately, this is the problem with most people when they treat themselves for any health condition. They're not diagnosing the causes. They're going and buying my product, memory tea, arthritis tea, and they think, poof, all the problems are going to go away. And a lot of people do get a lot of benefits, I mean, you can still benefit, but if you don't remove the cause, which you have to identify through diagnosis and experience, then, you may feel some benefit with the herbs, but the condition isn't going to completely reverse until you identify and remove the cause. So that will be the first subject we cover. And then we're going to talk about, of course, some home remedies. Always good to have home remedies on hand. And then next, of course, herbal treatments, since herbal treatments have been around for a long time. Some of these treatments called, like, for example, Saraswati Churna. Saraswati means goddess of knowledge. Churna means formula. They trace it back over 1,000 years. So people were concerned about their memory 1,000 years ago. People are always surprised. Wow, I'm so surprised it works so well. And I go, well, people had memory issues thousands of years ago. So they made these formulas, not a single herb, but a formula. Formulas always work better. You have to keep that in mind. When you're just taking a little extract of Gota Cola or something like that, don't expect much. 1, you're taking an extract. 2, you're not taking much. And 3, you're just taking a single herb. And 4, most important, is you haven't identified and removed the cause. Another, of course, thing that I find a little frustrating is most people don't even come to me with cognitive decline, because most of my clients are elderly or past their midlife, and they just accept it, like arthritis, like urinating at night. People accept it as part of aging, and then they don't bother treating it, or they're not aware how easy and simple it is to treat for at least someone like myself. And because the causes are the real cause, you sometimes don't even need the herbs to improve if you identify and remove the causes. And most of the testimonials, which I'll show you some here on my website under Khabir's Clinic, memory-related testimonials, most of these probably didn't get herbs for their memory. It's just that their memory improved so much they gave me a testimonial, and that's because I treated their holistically and removed the causes, and then their memory got better. It's hard for me to tell here which ones I treated directly with some of my herbs, or some that just through the treatment had such big improvements in their cognitive function they mentioned it, or in their memory. Well, here somebody's talking about migraines. But here's a good one. I mean, this is a person that said, I feel younger, 20 years younger, and their memory is back. I mean, memory is back after I don't know how long. But, people sometimes have this cognitive decline for a long time and do nothing about it. So this person is thanking me there. This person's 79, and I'm amazed, and is amazed how clear their thinking is, and that they suffered from brain fog, and that I cleared it right away. It didn't take me too long with the herbs. And they no longer needed daily naps. So there was probably some of the causes that we covered today, you'll find are some of the reasons they recovered because I removed these causes. My physical health and memory restored. I was able to walk out of head fog and have much clearer thinking. So there's more to these testimonials, and I've had many cases of who had full-fledged dementia. I've had women who brought in husbands who were, 10, 15 years older, who completely forgot their own kids' names. Couldn't I had one husband that couldn't even remember his own wife's name. Well, actually, he was remembering calling her by his ex-wife's name, which really upset her. And he did it right in front of us at the table. So this at my desk. So his memory was really poor, and that was definitely the focus of the treatment was improving his dementia. And he came back a month later. He was sitting on the sofa reading the newspaper, and when his wife walked out of the room, his new wife, I asked him, well, she already had proven to me. She goes, "What's your son's name? What's your granddaughter's name?" And he just answered, "No problem." And I was like, wow. So when he left the room, I asked him in private, I said, "Did you remember that you were calling your wife by your ex-wife's name?" And he said, no, he had no recollection of it. So that's very interesting. So this man, she was going to throw him in an old folks home. He was driving her crazy, and he had been diagnosed by the doctors of having dementia, and within 1 month he was restored. Now, of course, the trick in treating somebody who's already in advanced condition is that somebody has to give them the herbs. They can't obviously remember to do it themselves. They can't even do the appointment by themselves. In most cases, it's the wife, the younger wife, who's going to give the herbs to try to restore her husband's memory. So, men, be good to your wives because, particularly if you're much older, in case you get dementia, she'll be the only one that can save you, since you won't be able to save yourself once your memory goes bad. So I've reversed full dementia. I would say that's full dementia when you can't even remember your own wife's name, you can't remember your kid's name, and you obviously this person couldn't drive. I've had women tell me they don't even want to let the husband walk down the street. He may not make it back. They have to send somebody with him just to go to the park, or he won't make it back. And then this is restored. So even extreme cases of full-on dementia are treatable, but really you should just treat it in the early stages, or like me, just drink brain tea every single day for 20 years, and then you just won't have the problem in the first place. That's what I'm drinking here right now, my own brain tea, and we're going to cover some of those herbs that are used in here. Fantastic. I love it. I love it. It's one of these products, as soon as I run out, I just instantly get another bag. Of course, I live in a big herb house, and there's just inventory here and herbs here. So since I own it, I don't have to pay for it. So when I run out, I just go grab another bag, throws off the staff because they're thinking, I thought we had 12 bags here. Where'd one go? That's usually the boss snatching it off of the shelf. And this is definitely one of the teas that I've been drinking over 20 years, and I don't like to miss one day. So that's really the best, is to be preventive. Now, let's go through some of these causes. This is really where you need to focus. I mean, it's easy to just go buy my brain tea and drink it every day like I do, and I definitely encourage you. I mean, it's like, $18 a month, and you're keeping your brain sharp. But you've got to identify to see if you have some of these causes. Let's go for these causes. And I'm a little bit going in order of priority in what I see in my practice. And not to say there couldn't be more, but stress. People who are stressed out generally start to have, poor memory problems. And we know this high cortisol levels interfere with memory and retrieval in particular. And so, when you've been having anxiety and you're stressed out, this will start deteriorating your memory, not just the time you're stressed, but even on the weekend when you're not stressed. And then, so if you're stressed out, I'm not just going to give you the brain tea. I'm going to probably try to get you off of your coffee and give you some relaxing herbs and some nervines, some herbs for anxiety, because if you came to me just trying to improve your memory, and I determined that one of the reasons your memory is so bad or so poor or declining cognitive function is due to your stress, then I at least to give you some herbs to help you better manage the stress in your life. Of course, I can't remove the stress, but I can just give you herbs to help you deal with it better, which work amazingly well. And so many people are so stressed out all the time. It's just shocking that people aren't taking these type of herbal teas every day, because people have a lot of stress from what I can see in my private practice, and they're not doing anything about it. Another major cause of cognitive decline is just lack of sleep or just poor sleep. Now, again, people just always seem to have an excuse. So, I just never sleep well. I hear that all the time. I have to urinate at night. Well, then you need to address that. I mean, there's so many sleeping products that just knock you out. Even our big top selling tea, it's called Knockout Tea, and we've got hundreds of testimonials on it on Amazon and eBay, where people say, "Wow, now I know why you called it knockout tea." And so again, you're spending less than $20 a month to get yourself to sleep. It's beyond me why people aren't taking these herbs. And of course, magnesium probably won't be strong enough to get you to sleep, and if you take too much, you'll get loose stools. And if the cause is nocturia or nighttime urination, then you need to treat that too. That's also treatable. I've done classes on that, and we have a tea called bladder control tea and other formulas helping. So you need to, we'd call that the cause behind the cause. If the cause was poor sleep and the cause of poor sleep was urination at night, then we call this the cause behind the cause. So once you get rid of the nocturnal urination, then you're sleeping better. Then once you're sleeping better, your memory will noticeably improve just in a few weeks. Another common cause of declining memory, poor focus, is nutritional deficiencies. Now, of course, we in the United States, we love extreme diets. We're doing extreme diets all over the place. That crazy ketogenic diet, which I saw a video from what was he? He worked like in a morgue or something there, but his expertise was anatomy. So he was teaching about anatomy, and he was saying, and the question was, which caught me on YouTube, was, can we live without carbs? And he said, many cells in the body require carbohydrates, including your red blood cells have no mitochondria, and they require carbohydrates for energy. So basically, his conclusion was you can't live without carbs. So I just like a little scientific proof, backing up what I've been telling people for a long time. This extreme diet of carnivore and keto is very unhealthy. It's for, muscle builders who don't really care about their long-term future, and they just want muscle. But I digress. But we also have other types of nutrition that will create certain nutritional deficiencies, but more excess when you're having that much animal protein, kidney failure, or gout, etc. But the more common nutritional deficiency that I've seen in my long career is B12 deficiency. And of course, we get that with animal protein. So we see that in a lot of vegans, another extreme diet where they're leaving off all animal protein, and often they're not replacing it with any other source of protein. So their hair, that's why it's very famous for vegans to have their hair fall out. That's due to the low protein. Now, of course, they could have just had more beans and maybe at least thrown in some cheese, and they would have been fine. But when you don't do any animal protein, any dairy, and then you leave out the beans, and they always try to take supplements. These extreme diets always talk about the supplements you need to take, but I don't believe in that approach. I mean, I do take supplements, but I'm trying to eat an Ayurvedic diet suitable for my body type in a broad range of foods, and would never leave out an entire food group. But anyway, the B12 is the most common, but even magnesium, even iron. So sometimes when women are anemic, they've been after menstruation and they remain anemic for a long time, particularly if you're not having any animal protein, build up those red blood cells fast. And we can see even in young women memory decline. But B12 and I think niacin, these are the big ones, these B vitamins. So generally, when I do appointment, folate. When I do an appointment and somebody's talking about cognitive decline and that's their main subject, I generally give them a B complex. So they get the folate and they get the B12. So, but that's very common. And another common cause of brain fog and forgetfulness and slow thinking is very simple, and that is poor circulation. And it's very easy to determine if you have poor circulation. If your hands and feet, particularly your feet, are much colder than the rest of the body, you have poor circulation. So, if the blood's not getting to your hands and feet, it's not getting to your brain. And this is when we see this kind of like a brain fog, forgetfulness. But even another cause, of course, is blood sugar issues. So we see a lot of pre-diabetics and diabetics with a poor uh, memory. And back to that nutritional deficiency one that I mentioned earlier. You don't even have to have an extreme diet. You could just be eating junk food. Let's just say a poor diet. You're just going out eating junk food, and this food is not very nutritional. You'll end up with nutritional deficiencies. Probably have to do a lot of coffee or Red Bull to keep yourself going because you're so depleted from the nutritional deficiencies. And then you'll also have this, poor mental stamina. But low or high blood sugar or insulin resistance will also impair mostly short-term memory and focus. There's different types of cognitive issues that I can diagnose, like short-term memory, long-term memory, focus, memory, stamina, or how soon you get tired. There's all kinds of little clues that will tell me about the cause. And of course, I'll know if somebody's got low blood sugar or high blood sugar or a poor circulation or poor sleep in my initial diagnosis. So often I can see the cause of their poor memory just by looking at their intake form. Now, again, another cause, mostly in men, but is hormonal imbalance, particularly testosterone in men. I guess that doesn't just build muscles and keep our libido going, but it helps with our memory. But even low estrogen for women, which is often common during, menopause, or both men and women if they get hypothyroidism. So all these things can lead to poor memory. And I think that's why I get a lot of people saying, wow, not only did you treat my hot flashes, my hormonal imbalance, or my hypothyroidism, but my memory came back. And I never gave them herbs for the memory. So it just showed that, that condition, that hypothyroidism, for example, was the underlying cause of their memory problems. And a lot of times they're taking medication for the hypothyroidism or the hormonal imbalance, but that doesn't improve their memory because the medication isn't really reversing. It's just kind of a hormone replacement. You're just taking a hormone replacement of a synthetic or, bioidentical, they call it. But sometimes you don't get the other benefits of having your whole system work and your memory come back. Another common cause is just inflammation. You get somebody with fibromyalgia or irritable bowel, and they've got muscle pain or joint pain. Well, generally, they'll also complain about headaches, cognitive decline, poor memory. That's because the brain is inflamed. If your intestines is inflamed, your brain's going to be inflamed. So, again, I treat people for the inflammation. Their joint pain comes down and they say, wow, not only is my joint pain better, my muscle pain better, but hey, my memory's better. That's because your brain was inflamed too. So inflammation is rarely isolated in one spot. It's usually becomes systemic and it's just most noticeable in some parts of the body. But people don't realize that inflammation is affecting their memory. And another big cause, probably the elephant in the room that gets me 9 out of 10 when people mention cognitive decline, and they want me to treat them for it because they see all my testimonials. They think that I'm just going to hand them a little bag of tea and it's just going to go away. And I look at their intake form and I see that they're taking different medications, and medications are one of the biggest causes of cognitive decline. Now, I think it's easy to think how a sedative or antidepressant would affect your memory, and that's pretty well known. But also antihistamines, which are just taken for your seasonal allergies, will affect your memory. And the bad boy of all medication, which we know affects your liver and has a lot of long-term harmful effects. Many medical doctors won't even take it themselves. Statins, they also impair your memory function as a side effect, which if you read all that little fine print, you'll see it on there. But you can go online and just research your medication, and you can discover that many of them will talk about cognitive decline as a side effect because it's toxic. Now, of course, alcohol use, is known to deplete your brain nutrients and cause a little brain damage. We all have that joke: if you drink too much, you're going to kill a bunch of brain cells. Well, apparently that's right. So, alcoholic use will impair, particularly your long-term memory function. See, an alcoholic, he can have great short-term memory, but he can't remember what he did last week. And then other conditions like just depression or anxiety. And another big wild card, which is one of its most tricky to diagnose, and that's heavy metals, particularly lead and mercury can impact your long-term memory and have symptoms similar to dementia. So that's the first step is, like it always is with every condition, is to identify and remove the cause of your poor memory. And of course, that's what I do for a living. And you can see, my treatments are always pretty much the same pattern. Diagnose what's causing it. And most people come to me with 4 or 5 issues: high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney failure, and poor memory, for example. And they're on 3 or 4 meds. So, it takes a little work to identify sometimes a list of 4 or 5 causes of their 4 or 5 conditions, or 10 causes of their 4 or 5 conditions. But once I've identified those, then I can start to work on removing them. And many of them, the people are doing themselves. They are the cause. They're the ones stressing out, drinking too much coffee or overworking, and then they got the medication on top and nutritional deficiencies on top of that. And you can see why. I can look at somebody's intake form and think, boy, your memory can't be too good with these 3 meds plus your nutritional deficiencies and your stress and poor sleep. And they go, oh, yeah, it's really bad. And they may not even mention it on the form, but I can just see all those causes and know this memory is probably not good with this person. So that's the first step. Remove these causes, which many of them you have control over, and you're just not aware of it. And then there's little home remedies and eating habits that you can change. Your diet can be not so extreme, so you're not creating nutritional deficiencies. And of course, if you're eating poor, then it's going to get your health overall is going to get better. Your memory is going to get better if you just stop going out and eating the junk food. And if your digestion's poor and you're gassy and bloated and constipation, you're having constipation all the time, or even just chronic acidity or hypersensitivity, and you're just not eating much because you're having some inflammation in the colon, then you're going to end up nutritionally deficient over time. And that's going to lead to more cognitive decline. So you can see how your person could start going downhill. And then the third treatment, of course, is what everybody comes to me for. And, I think they hope that's all they have to do. I think I'm a little bit more than people bargain for because they don't realize they have to change their lives. They just come and try to get the herbs from me. But even then, it's not such a simple subject as people would hope. I mean, here on my website, Herbman Teas, the sponsor of today's talk, there's a whole section just for brain health. I mean, so we got a lot of products here, and we're not going to cover all these, but I want to show you that, I have a lot of products for different type of mental states. We even have this, complete brain package right here with three products we can see right there. So these are the 3 main products. There's the Get Smart Tea with the chaga mushrooms, which is what I'm drinking here every day. I didn't have the chaga mushrooms a few years ago. I mean, we just added that last year. And then the Brain and Memory Tonic, that's the main one I get people's out of dementia with. And then these Memory Ghee, which we import from India, which has this famous formula called Saraswati in it, which is 800-year-old formula, but it's in ghee. So this one is more gentle. It's very good for children. So that's the whole package. And that's, of course, You got to remove those causes. Don't forget the causes. But if we look at some of these herbs individually, particularly this brain tea with the chaga mushrooms, let's take a look at this. There we can see those herbs. There they are right there. I can identify most of those herbs by sight. But this is very effective in improving memory and clarity. And it doesn't really take that long. In fact, in my own office, if I stop drinking it for a week, even my staff can notice I'm forgetting. People, we give this out free in the office. You can have as much brain tea as you want. And some people, like the new staff, they'll be drinking it every day. And then some old staff, they stop drinking it. They start making a lot of mistakes. And first thing we all say, did you stop drinking your brain tea? And they go, yeah, I did about a week ago. I started drinking some other tea. So we go, you got to go back on the brain tea. You've been making too many mistakes. So we can see it in each other who's not drinking their brain tea. It tastes good too. But let's take a look at some of these herbs. Now, ginkgo leaf, this is an ancient tree back in the dinosaur age. So kind of interesting. It helps improve your memory, and it's just a multi-million year old tree. It's one of the most studied herbs for brain function. And a lot of people just go online and they buy little capsules and, with ginkgo extract, and they think this is going to resolve their whole memory problem. And a lot of people say, oh, I tried everything. I tried herbs. I go, what'd you try? Well, I bought this ginkgo. And I go, well, how many do you take? I took one every day. Yeah, right. It ain't going to do it. So one, it's a single herb. Formulas always work better than the herb. Two, it was just an extract. Three, you only took one capsule. And who knows how old the herb was. Did it say organic on the label or not? There's just so many factors. But this one is very well known to improve mental clarity, and that's why it's in there. Now, Brahmi is, it's like the premier nootropic, herb of Ayurveda. This is well known in Ayurveda to improve cognitive performance. And those are one of the main herbs in the formula. And it enhances your learning ability. It makes you more intelligent and particularly helps with long-term focus. And Gotu kola is very similar to Brahmi. In fact, the leaves look very similar. It's for nerves, but it's a little bit more circulatory, and it's a little more clearing, slightly stimulating. So it's used for fatigue. And that's probably what gives this formula a little bit of a mental boost, is the Gotu kola. And sage, well, this is kind of a Western herb. Even the American Indians used to use it for alertness and memory. But these are the main three herbs that make this formula work: is the ginkgo, the Brahmi, and the Gotu kola. Sage is, it's an important secondary level. And then the rest, peppermint is just because it helps it taste good. Peppermint's a little stimulating. It helps with brain fog. It still has its mild benefits, but by itself, you may not feel nothing. But it does add to it because Brahmi in particular can be a little bitter. And then the rest of these, like rosemary, is more for, it's known to be a memory enhancer, so to speak, but it's mostly there to improve the circulation because, as I mentioned earlier, circulation is a big problem for poor mental function. So rosemary and cinnamon are there to kind of just help the circulation and get the herbs to the brain. But it helps with the steady flow of these herbs and kind of, it just is supportive. These aren't the key herbs. You could leave one of these out and it wouldn't hurt the formula. And then because some of those ginkgo and Gotu kola are a little bitter, we do add a little stevia to it. And stevia is known to help manage blood sugar. And then later on, just last year, we added just 7% chaga mushrooms. And we know that chaga mushrooms help with long-term brain health, are kind of restorative, help reducing inflammation in the brain and the body and promoting overall cognitive function. So this is a really powerhouse of a tea, and it's 1850. My staff told me you should raise it to 1950 because the cost of the chaga mushrooms is high. So get it while you can. Tells you how to take it, tells you other teas it will go with. So that's really the basis. Now, the other tea is this memory and energy tea, which is the one I have in the morning. And you're going to see a lot of the herbs are very similar. The main difference is this one has the green tea in it. There's many types of green tea. I would never buy a green tea if they didn't tell you what's the name of the green tea. That's just like going into a liquor store and say, "Give me a bottle of wine." I mean, it's like, what kind of wine you talking here? And when you just see green tea in a product, that's always not a good sign. So we use this Daoren green tea, and because I like this tea because it doesn't get too bitter. And mostly people just like me, I just leave the herbs in there, and a lot of green teas will become too bitter. So this tea's got the ginkgo, got the gotu kola, got the peppermint, got the sage, got the rosemary. Same as a brain tea. The difference is it's got the green tea and the elethro. Elethro is, they call it Siberian ginseng or the poor man's ginseng or the Russian ginseng. And it also has some stamina increasing qualities to it, known to help with stamina, libido, focus, and it's an adaptogen. So it's kind of the green tea and the elethro together kind of give it that energy. That's why its original name was memory and energy tea for over 20 years. And then, in a little marketing effort there, we renamed it Get Moving. Another tea that's, really underappreciated. I've been having it for decades every single morning. So I do this memory and energy tea in the morning, which now we call Get Moving. And then in the afternoon or the evening, I do my brain tea, which now we renamed Get Smart. Um, Both of them, just those two alone will make a big difference. And you won't need your memory will improve tremendously, and you'll definitely avoid cognitive problems in the future. But if you're starting to get dementia or somebody in your place is getting dementia and it's bad, then I'm going to give you the Ayurveda formulas. Now, the formulas are twice as powerful as the tea. Sometimes people buy the tea on my site for some condition and they say, well, it helped, but it didn't get better. And then when I do the appointment with them, I don't even give them the tea. I just give them the formula. And they go, why didn't I? But they don't pick the formula because they're more attracted to teas. But teas are weak. They're just like an infusion or decoction. Here, when you're doing a formula, you're ingesting the whole herbs. But this is the famous formula that I was telling you about. I put a few herbs in it. But here's the famous formula I mentioned, Saraswati Churna. Churna means formula. Saraswati means the god of knowledge. So if you're a formula, this is over 1,000-year-old formula, and you're named after a god. I mean, you only have so many gods in Hinduism. But if you're a formula, you're named after the god of knowledge, you have to be quite good. That's why I say it's a renowned classical blend. We can't make it. There's 26 herbs in it. We have to import this formula. But it's very effective. And this is the one we use for dementia. Enhances memory, calms nervous system. And, it's got some of the same herbs that go to cola. Vacha means the channel opener. It's got 26 herbs in it. Some of them I don't even know. And we prescribe it for, speech issues, poor retention, learning delays, even in young children. And then I mixed it with some Brahmi and some Gota Cola. And that made this formula. Because this formula, Saraswati Churna, it's almost too strong to take it by yourself. In Ayurveda, you could just take that's why even it says only take a half a teaspoon. And I used to sell it all by itself, and it was like too strong. Your whole head would be like a little stimulated. So I cut it down with some Brahmi and Gota Cola, which are both good for your memory. And both of these herbs are already in Saraswati Churna, but it just softened the whole thing. It made it a little more relaxing so people could do whole teaspoons. But this is very, very effective and even good for anxiety, tension, mental fog. Unbelievable. But that's the one. And there's my package. See, I got this. So when people do a bundle, I do this brain and memory formula, then I do the brain tea, and then I even have brain drops, which I'm not even talking about today. There's more products. And what do we have here? Then the ghee. The ghee is good too, particularly for children or really sensitive type. It's another traditional formula. We don't make it. We import it. It's very, let's just say, when the products are in ghee, they're generally more gentle. and you can give them to children. So this is something that you could give to a child. And it has that Saraswati churna in it. It's in there. I think it's just broken down because that's the name of it. If you look at the name, oh no, this one's not with the Saraswati. This is the brain ghee. I didn't even bring up. This is the brain ghee. I'm sorry. There's another one called memory ghee. They have a few products. This one is more for ADHD and it's made with Brahmi. But we have another one. Where's the other one? There's the brain ghee. We have brain building jam too for like, when you've had a concussion or something. There's the brain oil drops. But here it is. Here's the one I was thinking I had there. Excuse me. This is a Saraswati Grita. Saraswati is the name of that formula I talked about earlier, and it's mentioned here, but you can see the name Saraswati Grita. So this one is for memory. The other one's for ADHD, and it even says for supports brain development in children. So it's the herbs are infused into the ghee. So it's very gentle, and it's, that's why we say they're suitable for hypersensitive types, and they're suitable for children. So if I could just review real quick. First, identify the cause, probably nutritional, poor sleep, anxiety, and some medication you're taking. All these need to be addressed. So that's why the treatment has to be holistic. If you're not sleeping well, you got to take some herbs for sleeping. If you're stressing, got to get off the coffee and these stimulants and take some herbs to relax, and you got to get to, not work as much. There may be some lifestyle changes. You may have to eat better. If you're eating a lot of junk food, you may have to get off of your extreme diet and you have a more broader food. You may have to improve your digestion. So all these causes are the real treatment. And then you can pick 2 or 3 of these products. And if that's too much for you, then you better just do the appointment and let me do it for you. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I at least inspired you to know that you can easily improve your memory by doing an appointment with me. But even on your own, if you can identify your causes and change your life and change your diet and get rid of these causes, then you could just buy some of these proven products and you can see a big improvement. Now, if you're somebody with not any real memory issues, then I would just be drinking the brain tea every day, unless you're doing some job where you don't need your brain. But if you're a teacher, a student, or a business person, or somebody like me providing services and have a lot of patients, you don't want to forget their names and forget what you're doing every day or make mistakes, then just drink the brain tea every day. That's enough. I mean, I have the memory and energy tea, which has got the herbs in it. And then in the afternoon, I have the brain tea. I don't do the ghees. I don't need those. And sometimes I'll do that stronger brain and memory formula, little pinches of it. I'll throw in my teas. I get that sometimes, just put it in my tea. Particularly, I don't have a bag in front of me now, but I've done mini bags, and that really perks you up. If I have a lot of pressure, like I'm going to go overseas, do a lot of appointments, do a lot of presentations like I used to do, then I would take that brain and memory formula to give my brain an extra little kick. Particularly if I'm working late, staying up late, working long, then I often need that little mental kick to go out and speak publicly or meet more patients the next day and just keep going without just resorting to jacking myself up on coffee, which is always you always will pay the price later on that. So hope it inspired you. I hope you at least go and herbmanteas.com and get yourself some brain tea, because I'm probably going to raise the price. I'll wait a couple days because now that those chaga mushrooms in there, it's a very valuable and precious formula and very effective. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope it inspired you. I hope you make some changes to your life, and I hope you don't accept that cognitive decline is part of aging and treat it in the early stages. Thank you very much.